Hey everyone, what is going on? The MCU is just massive right now, isn't it? So many great things are unfolding. I am excited. I'm pumped. You've got Daredevil, you got Kingpin into the MCU now from the Netflix series. But yet, Spider-Man No Way Home leaves us with so many questions after the movie. Some of us understand it, some of us don't. I'm going to pose some of those questions here. And let me know your thoughts and if you have any answers for them or any questions that you guys have as well. And let's see if we can figure that out together. So with that, let's get down to some of the questions we have about Spider-Man No Way Home after we have watched it. Here are the top 10 questions we have after watching Spider-Man No Way Home. Okay, let's go to the first one here. If the world forgets Peter Parker, what about the systems? Does he have a birth records, digital records? What happens with that? No bank account? Is he just like a ghost? Now, here's something very interesting that I caught in the movie. Maybe some people have caught it, some people didn't. Now, he had a GED book. Obviously, that is, not the same as a high school diploma. So if he had a GED book in one of his moving boxes on top of that, that means he didn't graduate high school per se. So he took the GED. So high school doesn't have records of him because the way I see the spell, which is a little bit confusing to some, is that the spell only erases the minds of those who know that Peter Parker is Spider-Man. And since the whole world knows that Peter Parker is Spider-Man, the whole world is wiped clean and he's a ghost. So, but it remains to be seen about digital records and other records out there. So I think that may be the case, but I'm not too sure. Love to hear your thoughts on that. Number 2, who has ownership of all the Stark tech now? I mean, he had the glasses, he had the suit. Now, I know that the suit and the glasses obviously recognize Peter Parker as the owner, but does Friday now not recognize him at all? And is that tech just null and void? I mean, we did see him sewing his own suit. Obviously, it's a new design and everything else. Is he going back to the basics, or will the Stark tech, is it still available for him to use? Remains to be seen. Number 3, is there an Uncle Ben in the MCU? This was not really discussed. We know about Aunt May, but was there a Ben? Was there an ex-husband? Was there somebody that maybe Peter knew or didn't know? Because when he had the conversation with the other 2 Peter Parkers, the Uncle Ben thing really didn't click for him. It was only Aunt May. So this is interesting. Could this open up another relationship for Peter Parker to have in the newer Spider-Man films? An Uncle Ben that actually does live, since Aunt May sort of replaced that. Very interesting topic. What do you guys think on that? How powerful is Doctor Strange? Now, here's the thing that kind of got me in terms of No Way Home. Doctor Strange is supposed to be the Sorcerer Supreme, so to speak. And of course, yeah, he did give the title away to Wong, whatever the case may be, as he mentioned earlier, but he's still very powerful. But, Spider-Man pretty much had his way with Doctor Strange in the mirror dimension relatively easy, which is a little bit odd. And he was stuck in there for 12 hours. So how strong is Doctor Strange? How powerful is he? Or did they just sort of, reduce his strength and power to make way for the introduction of the other Spider-Man and to have that own storyline in No Way Home? So I hope they sort of clear that up, because they are really kind of back and forth with Doctor Strange. And one more thing, a little off topic. Can they fix Doctor Strange's hairpiece? I mean, it was fine in the first movie and it's getting progressively worse and worse and worse. It's almost becoming comical. It's like, dude, can you not? I mean, you're Marvel Studios. You have a lot of money. Can't you find a really good hairpiece for Benedict Cumberbatch and keep it? Because he doesn't need to change his hair. I mean, we all know it's got gray and it's got a kind of a pompadour look to it. He doesn't really need to change it, but every movie, it's looking faker and faker and faker. Anyway, so the villains who returned to their own universes that are rehabilitated now, what happens to them? Do they die there? Do they live their own life? I mean, what continues to go on? Because, part of the timeline that we sort of understood through Loki is that things have to happen. If someone dies, they have to die. And if they don't, then that changes the timeline. It changes history. It changes everything. So what happens in this regard? Did it really change everything, no matter what spell Doctor Strange put into the mix? Very interesting thought. What do you guys think on that? All right, guys, before we go any further, here's a quick message from our sponsor, Logitech. Here at Geek Culture, audio is a huge part of our daily lives, both work and play. So what's our choice of headphones? Well, meet the Logitech G435 Lightspeed wireless gaming headset. It lets you listen to all the rich sounds from your music videos and games across PC, console, and mobile while sporting some popping, vibrant colors. Not only that, it weighs just 165 grams, which means sometimes you'll even forget that you're wearing it. With a robust battery life of 18 hours, you can enjoy your gaming sessions for prolonged periods of time. For more details, head over to logitechg.com. Now, Charlie Cox as Daredevil. Now, we know that he was part of the Netflix universe. He's now into the MCU. How does that work? Are we going to see, Kristen Ritter as Jessica Jones? We're going to see Mike Coulter as Luke Cage. Are we going to see, John Bernthal as Punisher? Are they going to come into the mix? And if they do, how is their storyline going to be? I mean, they may be playing the same characters or this, but is something radically different? Or are they going to keep to that lineage of the Netflix universe, so to speak, but just take bits and pieces and bring it into the MCU? That's going to be a very interesting journey for all this. Loki, we had variants and so forth, but are these variants or how they're going to treat it? I don't know. It could be confusing, or it just could be a really simple transition. It remains to be seen, but I have a feeling we may see this in episode 6 or get an idea of how it'll go in episode 6 of Hawkeye. Now we got to talk about Ned, because Ned has some magical powers or has some abilities. We saw this in No Way Home. And it was interesting. This sort of escaped my mind initially when he was walking into Doctor Strange's home. And he did say, my grandmother said our family has magic, and Strange sort of brushed it off. But when he had Strange's ring, he's able to open up the portals. I mean, he obviously couldn't close it, but he was able to open it up and remember how to do it relatively easy. So is there something about Ned that we don't know? Is he going to become a villain? Will he become, part of, the brood that, or part of, Doctor Strange's universe? I mean, what's going to happen with Ned? That might be a very interesting story going forward. Of course, we know he, in the comics becomes sort of a villain, Hobgoblin, but will he be somebody different? Will they change it completely? Who knows? So the alien symbiote as we know it knows that Spider-Man exists, right? And even though Eddie Brock and Venom were sort of vanished into their own universe in the extra scene of Spider-Man No Way Home, what happens to this now? Does Marvel have access to Venom? Can they use Venom in the MCU, or is it still a Sony property? My guess, it's still a Sony property, and it went back to its respective universe because maybe they will use a Venom or not. Now, Sony did say that, and Marvel did say that they can share characters if and when. So this might be something that we see in the future, Venom coming over to the MCU or vice versa. But it does pose a big question. How does Venom now fit into this new world? It can be very interesting. And I know a lot of you are very excited about Venom being in No Way Home. Unfortunately, he's not in the main movie, but he's in the post-credit scene. What are your thoughts on Venom and his integration into the MCU or not? Love to hear from you guys on that. Now, in terms of the other Spider-Man, they had a conversation in No Way Home about the Avengers, right? And this was sort of that moment where they couldn't work together. And Tom Holland's Peter Parker was saying, look, I worked with the team, the Avengers, and, neither Tobey Maguire nor Andrew Garfield's Peter Parker knew what that was. So in their own world, is there no such thing as the Avengers? Are they solo acts just living in New York City? Or is there another group that they're just not belonging to? I don't know. That'd be interesting to find out and how that integrates into the whole thing. Because if you would think about it in multiverses, if there's an Avengers in one universe, would there be a somewhat of another Avengers in another universe, right? You would think there would be, or not. We don't know. Or is that because they're part of the Sony world and Sony's world has no mention of Avengers? Could be interesting to find out how that unfolds. So those are some of the questions that we have in regards to Spider-Man No Way Home. Let us know some of the questions you guys have in terms of the movie if you've already watched it. Now, if you haven't, of course, watch it, check it out. I mean, the movie is a really good movie. Yes, there are some plot holes into it. Yes, there are some things that work and don't work. And I have a feeling there is a much larger film that remains to be seen that's probably been cut down in the editing room. And maybe they'll release a director's cut or a special edition cut that's even longer because the movie's already quite long. But I have a feeling there's much more in depth that they left out for the sake of timing and for pacing. Love to see that cut if it ever exists. Anyway, Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Like always, follow us on Facebook, subscribe to us on YouTube. Thank you so much for the support of this channel. We really appreciate it, and we will chat to you soon. Take care.